It's been a long day here in Cape Town at the Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth Conference, which is being hosted by Standard Bank's Business and Commercial Banking Unit. And there have been several themes that have come to the fore, chief amongst them being the need for integration in what is becoming an increasingly fragmented world. And on that note, I caught up with Lungisa Fuzile, who is the CEO of Standard Bank South Africa, and started off by asking him just how important it is to change the thinking around South Africa being separate to Africa, because often we have South Africa and then the rest of Africa. And here's what he had to say.
It's exceedingly important. In a globalized world, the interconnections between businesses, between economies, does mean that we've got to think of a continent and a world where the borders are not only porous, but they are really soft. There's an easy and relatively free movement of people, of capital, of goods and services, because that's what drives modern economies. More often, Brownie, what you find is the tendency to retreat, to
stick to what you know.
nationalism, stick to what you know, obsess almost excessively with the notion of charity begins at home. Yes, it has got its place, and you want to sort of say, let's solve our problems here. Whereas, if you just step back and allow yourself the opportunity to have perspective, countries grow off the back of trade, off the back of the free movement of capital, the possibility and the ease to repatriate profits. So more and more we should encourage events like this conference, which bring together Africans from all over the continent, and in fact even invite sometimes people from other parts of the world, so that we can have the conversations about where to take Africa.
It's a noble ideal to strive for that, this one Africa, very connected.
Yeah.
Yet we are increasingly living in a world that is very fragmented.
Yes.
Not globally only, but Africa as well. If we think of it from that perspective, let's look at some of the challenges. What are you rating as the top 3 challenges to Africa reaching this idea of a one Africa, a one market?
Right away, it's policies and regulations, because they have to be harmonized to the degree that it makes sense to do so, whilst maintaining the identities of individual countries. But secondly, it's infrastructure. The physical movement sometimes of goods across borders needs infrastructure, be it ports, rail, road, and you name it all. So we've got to really deal with the infrastructure problem, invest in the right kinds of infrastructure, timely, and make sure that the designs are appropriate for our purpose. And finally, I would say, and I see this more as an opportunity than a challenge, leverage technology more, because off the back of it, things that were not easily possible previously are now possible. So we mustn't stand in the way or hesitate to allow technology to be infused in our business processes in ways that allow Africa to leapfrog, as we speak, from where we are to the future we aspire for.
So getting to grips with technology, perhaps one of the things that present a challenge and an opportunity.
Yeah,
but if we look at those two challenges that you highlight right at the top there, that being policy and infrastructure, how do you view that affecting business? Realistically, on the ground, those two challenges as impediments to doing business on this continent, what are you seeing play out when clients come to Standard Bank? How are they addressing those challenges? How are they dealing with those challenges? And in essence, is there even opportunity in addressing those challenges?
Many businesses, before they make a decision to invest in a country, they look at its policies. If I put the money in country A, will I be able to enforce the contracts that I'm going to enter into? That's what I mean about policies that make sense. Are the laws business friendly? Policies business friendly? The regulators, their posture, their attitude. Is it conducive to putting lots of other people's money in that country? And what you need then for that, you say practically, let me illustrate it. You see, if a country is very erratic in its policies, one day they allow investors to come in and to repatriate profits. The following day, they change the rules and they say you can't take your money out. So people factor those things in when they make long-term investment decisions. So it's exceptionally important to bear that in mind and solve for it. And one of the ways to solve for it, too quickly, it's industry. When I say industry, it could be banking if the regulations affect just banks, but it could be business as a community approaching the authorities to have meaningful conversations with them, to illustrate how counterproductive the erratic nature to policy making and enforcement thereof is for investment. But the other issue is making good and effective use of our own country of origin, so to speak, policymakers and governments. Departments of Foreign Affairs, and in our case we call it Department of International Relations and Cooperation, exist for a reason. That's why they have a presence in countries. They send, in many instances, their best negotiators so that they can be of help in navigating the policy and political environment in the countries, to lobby for more business-friendly settings. And of course, at a sort of continental level, making use of structures, organizations such as the AU to drive the message home that countries need each other. They need each other's pools of savings to develop themselves and to realize their full potential. And in that regard, the setting and resetting of policies in a manner that ensures that the easy and relatively free movement of capital happens almost seamlessly becomes quite key.
Business obviously on the same page when it comes to that. Corporates can see there's value in opening borders. That's how we get growth. You want this. Do you think governments are of the same opinion?
A lot of the time, Bronwyn, the sense one gets is that governments are of the same opinion. You will get differences in terms of the balances that they are able to strike between staying the course, where if a nation sets a policy environment that's investment friendly, that is designed deliberately to attract investment, which then may imply in some instances that their rhetoric may want to appear like you are inviting others to come and exploit the resources that the country has, take advantage of. But it is in that taking advantage of the resources that the country has, it is in solving the challenges that the country might be facing that growth will come from. And out of that growth will come job opportunities, more and more investment, and of course, the country will solve its problems. Now, some countries then, when they face the difficulty in balancing that, or when they face a particular point in their electoral cycle, they tend to retreat to being inward-looking, very protectionist in their policy posture. And I can tell you, autarky, the days of autarky are gone. No nation, even the most advanced one, even the most populous one, even the most wealthy one, is an island. Nations, modern nations exist and thrive on the basis of carefully managing the degree to which they open themselves up to the movement of goods, services, capital, repatriation of profits, in a way that's calculated to make sure that the country gains from that capital coming in, but at the same time, those who bring it in gain from being able to invest in a country and repatriate the profits out of the country when they have made the profits.
So even in a fragmented world, we have to grow together.
So well put, Brownway. Even in a fragmented world, we've got to grow together. The tensions will always be there between being nationalistic, being inward focused, gravitating towards being protectionist in posture, and those who argue on the opposite side for more openness, for freer trade, freer movement of capital, and so on and so forth. And we must always, manage that tension. And it is in that careful management of that tension that some nations will set themselves apart from others that fail to manage that complexity.
That was Lungisa Fuzile, the CEO of Standard Bank South Africa.